season of mists and mellow fruitfulness, close bosom friend of the maturing sun, conspiring with him how to load and bless with fruit the vines that round the thatch eaves run. Where are the songs of spring? Aye, where are they? Think not of them, thou hast thy music too, while barred clouds bloom the soft dying day and touch the stubble plains with rosy hue.
Autumn, a falling time, not a time of birth. But each autumn in this lovely campus begins a new academic year for the University of Stirling. Vision of the late Dr. Tom Cottrell, its first principal and vice-chancellor. Now, much missed.
The University of Stirling is one of the new universities that were founded partly as an instrument of expansion of higher education and partly to allow some innovation in what tends to be a pretty conservative type of institution. That one of these new universities should be in Scotland was recommended in the Robbins Report of 1963, and that it would be at Stirling was announced in 1964. And in 1965, I was given the job of being its first principal. Now, we've completed 5 years of operation, and we have made some of the innovations we'd hoped to make. We have a particularly flexible course structure. We've tried to innovate in assessment. We teach some subjects that aren't taught in the same sort of way elsewhere. And we've tried to do some other things as well, like paying attention to the arts, giving students more opportunity of experiencing the arts. And, of course, quite apart from all that, we have a certain distinction by being the lucky possessors of a very beautiful site. But in the end, we stand or fall, as all universities must, by the quality of our research and our teaching. We are concerned essentially with knowledge.
And it's that pursuit of knowledge that holds together the endless varieties of students and teachers. Lectures, tutorials, seminars on a multiplicity of subjects for a multiplicity of students. Physics, politics, philosophy.
Well, I wondered if we could turn now to consider the claim that works of art can be identified with physical objects, that they are in fact physical objects, sometimes if not all the time. What do you think about this?
Well, is it not the case that we do identify such things as paintings and sculptures with physical objects? Although we may have a difficulty in cases such as plays, where we do not have a particular physical object with which to identify it. I don't know whether you'd want to say this might be in terms of a performance.
Well, there is a further difficulty about identifying works of art with natural objects. You brought up the case of a play. There may be several performances of a play.
The emphasis must be self-knowledge. You're told the facts, you learn to use them.
Being the most significant.
This section of the lecture you can entitle How Animals Get Their Food. And of course the first point that we should emphasize...
Kant is concerned to carry out an examination of practical reason. This is a preliminary to the projected metaphysic of morals which he wrote later.
Pays imaginaire de l'Europe de l'Est en 1943 et 1945. C'est une espèce de démocratie populaire en puissance, une espèce de Ruritanie de la gauche.
On all these issues, whether we're dealing with social reform, administrative reform, or even law and order, we're probably confronted with two conflicting interpretations. On the one hand, the fairly traditional Whig interpretation, the conflict between good and evil, the eventual triumph by the good men over the bad men. And on the other hand, we have the slightly more cynical Tory interpretation, where the men concerned are neither particularly good nor particularly bad, but fumble their way forward by a process of trial and error. Well, I'm not going to try and tell you which is the correct interpretation, nor am I even going to try and tell you that there is a correct interpretation. Thank you.
The lecture can only end inconclusively. You don't come to university to have your mind made up for you. You come to realize what your mind can achieve. Whether it's history or horticulture, Your teacher can only take you so far. The rest is up to the individual. And on the campus at Stirling University, all the aids to private study are only a few moments' walk away. Whether it's off for coffee and an informal chat about the subject of the morning's lecture, or off to the library. The library is a place for study, for discovering the facts, checking the references. Danger, students at work. Stirling University Library has 200,000 books. If one book weighs an average of 1 pound, then the total number would weigh 100 tons.
That's quite a weight of knowledge.
Every shelf measures 3 feet in length. If all the shelves were laid end to end, they'd measure 15 miles.
And that's some path of learning.
Books and bookshelves are much the same everywhere. But in a university library, you need study areas as well. Quiet corners where you can sit on a sofa and browse. Desks and chairs with plenty of light for reading and writing. Stirling even has single study carrels for final examination students who need absolute peace and concentration. All for the important essay that makes a student think critically before writing. You must question ruthlessly both what the books and your teachers tell you before remarshalling it all in a logical and cogent way to make your point. Fail to do that, and you're wasting your own and everybody else's time.
It all started here, Airthree Castle, the one stately home in whose grounds the university now stands. As a drama centre, students use it to rehearse.
The idea's got to be a real punch. I mean, you don't hit him, but it's got to be a real punch. You know, you're great friends, tremendous emotion, just shaking like that in his face. Okay, I'll take it from there. Okay?
What's the name of those dogs? Marsh Mastiffs? Bog Beagle?
Water Spaniels.
And what would you do with a water spaniel that was afraid of water? You'd hang it! Well, as a spaniel is to water, so is a man to his own self. I will not give in because I oppose it. I do. Not my pride, not my spleen, nor any other of my appetites. I do. I.
Thomas.
Is there no single sinew in the midst of all of this that serves no appetite of Norfolk's, but is just Norfolk? There is. Then give that some exercise, my lord.
Now steady, Thomas.
Because as you stand, you'll go before your Maker in a very ill condition. And he'll have to think that somewhere back along your pedigree, a bitch got over the wall.
The Student Drama Group is only one of many societies on the campus at Stirling. A campus purpose-built to ensure that everything vital to the day-to-day life of the university is on the site. And you don't have to walk far from A to B. Older universities have tended to grow haphazardly. A building here, a lecture theatre 2 miles away, a department office a rainy 10 minutes walk further on. At Stirling, there's a central complex, walkways and glass, rooms with a view.
And at the centre of the complex, the already celebrated McRoberts Centre. Conceived from the start as a centre of the arts for town and gown alike. A sort of cultural no man's land where everyone has a chance of enjoying music, drama, cinema. But the box office is firmly on the side of the students, who don't need to leave the central complex to buy tickets. How many other universities can boast of having Scottish Opera or the Prospect Theatre actually playing on the campus, as well as its own drama company, Theatre Makers? But campus shops don't make a university. It's concerned with knowledge. At Stirling, there has been more than one revolution. It's the only Scottish university where you can combine your degree with a teacher's diploma. No need to go to training college once you've graduated. It's the only Scottish university with semesters instead of terms. 2 15-week semesters per year equal 3 traditional terms. And then there's continuous assessment. A student's day-to-day work away from the pressures of examinations all counts towards the degree he finally gets. And the odd piece of bad work is forgotten on the way. Stirling is alone too in guaranteeing every first-year student a place in a residence on campus close to A3 Loch.
And that loch is more than a pretty sight. It's the centre of some intriguing research work by Professor Fred Holliday and the Aquatic Pathobiology Unit. Live trout are fitted with tiny radio transmitters. Dead trout are subjected to intensive post-mortems on the laboratory slab. The great advantage is that these fish and all sorts of aquatic life can be studied in the natural environment on the university campus. A3 Loch is literally humming with fish, each carrying their own transmitter.
This fascinating watery local radio station provides new insights into the behavior of species almost impossible to observe by any of the more traditional methods. Just one of the sciences spawned at Stirling.
Nothing fishy about other research either. Important projects in physics and chemistry ensure that Stirling maintains a proper proportion between the two cultures.
These are the jars that stand on the slab that are used by the prof in the chemistry lab.
And these are the liquids not at all drab that go into the jars that stand on the slab.
And here's the equipment all shining and gay, equipment that might have been made in a day, with undoubted skill which none will gainsay, by a craftsman kept in the college's pay, who bevels the glass with a hand so dab, which when filled with the liquids not at all drab, will be used by the prof in the chemistry lab.
The two cultures. They find a natural bridge at Stirling's outdoor centre at Loch Rannoch, and more besides. The Rannoch Outdoor Centre belongs to the university. It's multi-purpose, has laboratories used for biological field studies, rooms for student reading parties, and perhaps most important, it provides recreational weekends. Sailing, canoeing, mountaineering are just 3 things on offer. Of course, there's sport back at Stirling. A university doesn't manage on its mind alone. Mens sana in corpore sano. But especially sane is this idea of having an outdoor centre in the Perthshire Highlands. Any student can come up here for a weekend away from it all. Instruction is given. The complete beginner needn't be afraid. But don't forget that Rannoch has its academic side too. There are fish to be tracked, plants to be put under the microscope, wildlife to be observed in situ. And there are poems to be read too. Stirling is lucky to have the distinguished poet Norman McCaig on its teaching staff. Students can hear his insights as he reads and talks to them back on the campus.
Landscape and I get on together well. Though I'm the talkative one, still he can tell his symptoms of being to me the way a shell murmurs of oceans. Loch Rannoch lapses wimpling in the sun. Its hieroglyphs of light fade one by one, but recreate themselves, their message done, forever and ever. That sprinkling lark, jerked upward in the blue, will daze to nowhere, but leave himself in true translation. Hear his song cascading through his disappearance. The hawk knows all about it, shaking there an empty glove on steep shoots of the air, till his yellow foot cramps on a squeal, to tear smooth fur, smooth feather. This means, of course, Schehallien in my mind is more than mountain. In it he leaves behind a meaning, an idea, like a hind couched in a corrie. So then, I'll woo the mountain till I know the meaning of the meaning, no less. Oh, there's a Schehallien anywhere you go. The thing is, climb it.
A university with a beautiful campus, and at its heart an arts centre, provision for body and mind. And as the essays mount up, so you can lose track of the passing of time. There must be change during your time as a student, as your mind develops, as you begin at last to take nothing on trust. One day there's a final essay, a last exit from bookland. Then comes graduation, fulfillment, the moment that proud parents will relive in mantelpiece photographs forever. A bachelor's degree, without honors, 3 years study, with honors, 4 years. The pursuit of truth isn't easy. It comes from within, and it's uncompromising. If your time at university teaches you that alone, it's not been without worth. For all the paraphernalia of graduation, it isn't the end. It's only just the beginning.